Hello, today I am going to be showing you how to create a menu like this, nice and simple, but very configurable, and you can make it look how you want using a theme. So let's get to it. Okay, so this is my game. I'm making a little city builder. That doesn't really matter. I'm just going to create a new pause menu. I already have one here, but I'm going to create it again so you can see how to do it. So I'm going to assume you have a little bit of Godot knowledge, so I'm not going to go into detail about what scenes are, etc. So hopefully you know a bit about Godot, and I won't labor too much on the details. So start a new scene, press button, and then you want user interface. And there we go. Let's zoom in so we can see what's going on. Get the inspector ready. And just leave it as control. We'll close it pause menu demo. Press save. Stick that somewhere useful in your tree somewhere. It doesn't really matter. Pause menu demo. My screen is black because in the preferences and environment I've changed it to black, but let me make it a bit lighter. Doesn't really matter, but so don't worry too much about that. Okay, so leave the top level one as a control and right click on it, add child node. What we want is a panel container first, and then let's just size it appropriately. And if you look, it's kind of hovering in the middle of nowhere here. So click on this, click this little anchor thing, stick it in the middle, and there we go. You've got a nice menu thing there. And so one of the most important things to Godot UI is to turn theming on. So click this thing, and we have themes, right? So I already have a theme, but what you're going to want to do is, now let me create a new one. So right click on your resources, create new resource, type theme in here, and then you'll get a theme. Right, so click that. It'll ask you where to save it. Let's save it, theme demo. And then you have to assign it. So theme over here, theme demo, drag that over there. So the theme's applied now. The theme that you get, so if you double click on that, this is our theme kind of preview window and shows us what it kind of looks like default. So we can change all this stuff, but we won't do that yet. So now we've got the main menu. You can run it if you press this little button, run current scene. And my window's tiny because I got a big monitor and it's kind of dumb. There we go. It doesn't do anything yet, but the good thing is it stays in the middle. That's what you're looking for right now. And there we go. One thing we need to do is make sure that on the top level control on mouse, it's stop. So this is going to stop clicking behind the menu, so you don't click on the game and things like that. But one thing we can also do is right click on it, add new node, and go color rect. Stick that above the panel container where all our menu is going to go. And go to layout. We'll be using this quite a lot. Go to transfer, oh sorry, not there. Go to anchors and then say full rect. You can also do it up here, and it's this button, full rect. If you mess it up, it's okay, just click it again. Sometimes you can like accidentally do that, but then you can just go and click it again. So whenever we see this now, it's going to take over the entire game and it'll go all white. So we don't want to go all white, so choose black, click on this color, stick it down the bottom, and then change the alpha. So it'll show you what's behind the game a little bit, and it'll be kind of blurred. So let me show you my game again. You see it goes dark and I can't click anything. That's because I got that big black color rect getting in the way, basically. So we have the panel container, and it's pretty much easy stuff from now on. Add a new one, VBox. So things are going to go down. Now it's kind of up to you how you do this bit, but I prefer to just create panel containers for each item that you want to put in here. So let's say we have a button, and let's call that resume. Text is massive right now, and we're going to fix that in a second. So if we play it again, I got my tiny stupid little window, but you can see this button is huge and the text is a bit crap. So if I go back to the actual game that I've changed the font. So it's, I'm going to assume using pixel art here. And if you are, we're going to need to change the font and, well, a bunch of other stuff as well. But I'm going to show you how to easily do that without doing some crazy stuff. So go back to our theme now. We can change the font. So up here, when you change your theme, up to the top right here, your default font, default size. I've already downloaded a font called Press Start 2P. If you Google that, it's a Google font which looks pixel arty. So Press Start 2P, just Google that and you'll find it. I'm sure you know how to download stuff. And then just drag and drop into there, and bam, we have a, so all this has changed now to pixel art, and the pixel art font sizes are tiny. So start with like 3 and you'll be something about right. So that looks pretty good. So we got a button. Now, if you press Control D or whatever the duplicate is, you can get a bunch of them. And this is going to get annoying at being so small. There's a way to fix that in the scaling, and I've done that when I press the actual game and this comes to my game. So I'll sort that out in a second. But that's basically how you put everything together. Now let me show you. For some reason, when the fonts are tiny in the editor, you can't actually see them properly. Not entirely sure why, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. I guess just because it's 3-point, which is crazy tiny. So let me put it into the game now. I assume if you're doing pause menus, you probably know a bit about how to use Godot. But what you're going to need is a canvas layer. So just add node, canvas layer. And you usually only kind of have one for your menus and everything. So I dropped everything in here. Look, so I can change this pause menu. So let me turn that pause menu off. And I can drag and drop from my scenes UI pause menu demo. Let's put that there instead. So it's visible right now. So I don't have to do that stupid tiny problem anymore. I can just press play. So let me go back to this. So if I just press, so this runs the scene, this runs the actual game. And I've got some code in the background scaling it up so you can see what on earth you're doing. But depending on how big your screen is and resolutions and stuff, you probably don't have this problem. I got a 5K monitor and Godot gives me hassles, to be honest. Okay, so we've got that. So now how do we make it look right? And so you notice I can't click around the game. So that's a good start. But how do we make it look correct without having to do crazy stuff? So it's all about theming, and you can theme every single bit of your stuff here. So panel container is, if you go and press this plus button here, type and press plus and search for panel container, or just look for it, and here it pops. So now the major thing about the panel container is this little style box panel. It already has one built in, but you want to press this little plus button and you'll get an empty one. Now if you press this drop down, you can have empty, textures, flat, or box. To be honest, I only ever use the flat one. And you click that and it defaults to a flat one that you always get. So if I press play, it's changed to this. Now that's not terrible, but you want to probably go for the theme of your game. So let's change it. Let's change it to blue. Probably doesn't suit my game, but you get the point. Maybe mine is more of like something like this. Slightly desaturated yellow. Okay, it's a little bit better. That's a good start. Right, so flat's quite nice, so let's stick with flat. And you want some content margins, which is basically padding. So if I do like 3, 3, 3, 3. With pixel art, the paddings are tiny, so that's probably too much. But you'll have to play with these to see what works for you, because it depends on scaling and all that kind of stuff. That's okay, right? We're getting somewhere. You can also do the same to... So let me... There's one thing here that you might want to do. Is you can only theme the panel container once, and then that panel container is going to be used everywhere. So this one is going to look the same as this one. So what you can do is say I want this one to look different. Is go down to theme override, style, panel, and click it, and go style flat. So you can see just under the button there, it's gone gray again. You can't really see it because it's under the button. But if we put some content margins in, so 1, 1, 1, oops, 1, 1. Now you'll see that gray box coming back. See the gray box? So say we wanted to change that. I'm just going to exaggerate it so you can see. And now we get a panel underneath. So what we can do here now is just duplicating. And then we can have a bunch of buttons. So it's starting to look okay already, right? So what would he have? He'd probably have exit or something. And then save. And restore, whatever. I just want different text. Okay, starting to look okay. And we can resize it now. So that panel box, you can shove it all the way up. So it's perfect. Remember when you do that, the anchors kind of mess up. So press center again and it'll come back into the middle. Okay, so that's not too bad. Got a bit of padding down here. Don't worry about that too much. We can sort that out. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't actually add up to what you're looking at in the scene, right? So if you notice it's got padding down the bottom when you play the game, if you go back to the where you've put it in, sometimes it doesn't always play nice to where it's supposed to be, and then you have to change it. It's just spreading a little bit. I wouldn't worry about that kind of stuff, to be honest. So one thing you can do to mitigate that is if you go to highlight with the control button, hold the control button and select all of them, go to layout, go to container sizing, and the vertical you want to expand so it takes up all the space, and they'll get a little bit bigger hopefully. Now, see what I mean? So that space has got taken up now. So those these contain layout, container sizing, you can horizontally and vertically fill the space and expand. You'd think fill would actually fill, but it doesn't. You have to click expand for some weird reason. But there we go. It's starting to get better. And you can add icons to the button. Here. Icon behavior, icon, blah, blah, blah. You can add whatever there. I'll show you how to do that. If you're new to UI interfaces, I probably wouldn't do this because it's gonna be a little bit more difficult. I just probably wouldn't bother. So if you want to add an icon though, one thing I do suggest is using Atlas textures. Atlas textures basically if you have a big image, you can take the big image and then you can just take a tiny part of that image rather than all of it. So if I check my buildings, you can just about see I got a bunch of buildings and a big thing. So if I edit region, you have to zoom out, it always zooms in. So don't worry about these. I mean, they're just for little buildings and stuff. So do that. And you can see the icon's gone mega big. So you need to go to icon behavior and expand icon, click it. No idea why it really says expand, because when you click it, it actually shrinks to what it should be. But now you'll see you're starting to get into the realms of like UI design and stuff. Now you're going to need icons in each one or they don't line up, and you kind of get lots of problems there. So I would just say, if you want to keep things simple, don't bother with icons. Nobody's going to care if you have icons in your menus. Okay, so once we have that, you can go and theme anything you want. So we go back to my demo theme. You can theme the button now as well. So let's take button. And it's got all these panels again. And it's got loads of them this time because it's got like hover and when it's disabled, all that kind of stuff. So if you change the first one, flat box, same as before, it'll default to that ugly grey. And then we can choose our own. Let's just do a dark red or whatever. Okay, and then you see as this hovers, it goes back to that grey because I didn't change that. So we go back to the demo and we go hover here. One thing you can do to make this a bit quicker, if you right click on this box, you can say copy. And you can right click on the hover after you press the button. You can do paste, and now it's the same. So if you go into there, make sure you right click and you say make unique, because at the moment it's the same as the other one and they'll both change. So make unique and then make it a bit lighter or something. And oh, that didn't work. Did I put it in the right spot? Over. Ah, I changed the wrong one. Okay, there we go. So flat and okay, there we go. So that's quite nice. And there's a couple other things you might want to do. VBox container, theme overrides constant separation. That will be how much gap is in between. And you might want it really small, really big, whatever. And that I mean, it's kind of ugly looking, but this is where I would say just go onto the internet, look for nice designs. But we're just trying to keep things simple here. And once you have it themed, you don't have to really go back and touch your UI anymore. Say you don't like your theme and say I don't like that color anymore. All I got to do is go back to my theme and change the one and everything changes with it. Now that looks much better. The pink around the outside is probably not great. So you see they've all got the pink overrides. Now when you create an override, if you use the same override, they'll all change at the same time too. So that's quite nice. So even though I've used 4 overrides, it's the same one. And if for some reason you wanted to just change this one, right click on that, say make unique, and then change it, and it'll only change the bottom one. The only slight downside to that is now if you want to put it back, you'll have to copy again from the other one. You can also save them to make things easier. So if you right click, save as, you can save this override and you can put it somewhere else, and you can load them in and save them. So theming is basically your friend when it comes down to UI, and it can save a lot of problems. All right, so the UI's got lots of things. VBox container panels and VBoxes are gonna get you like 90% of the way there. So if I want to add another one, so let's add another one, exit, but say I don't want exit, and say I want 3 buttons down here. So add child, and then use HBox. So the HBox just goes horizontally instead. So say I add a button, and I add button 1, and then another one, button 2. So now we go the other way. But these VBox and HBox panel containers is going to do pretty much everything you need to do until your UI, starts to get complicated. We were talking about tabs and scrollers and stuff like that, but we're just trying to keep this basic for now. So we have the H now. They don't spread out nicely. So remember we did that content sizing. So we got a layout container sizing, sorry. So now it doesn't fill because you don't have expand on, which to me still doesn't make any sense. Let's say I want to expand 2 to take all the space. I'll go there and boom, it'll take the space, right? So you'll make this one mini, which doesn't quite fit, so you probably have to add more padding in there, and then 2 will take the rest. So what if we want them both the same size? We pick it and we expand there, and it's clever enough to expand them both to fit both sides. And so play around with container sizing to get what you want. And I could go to this one and expand that, and it'll push it the other way. So these are really, really powerful, this container sizing, which I use pretty much non-stop when I'm doing something. So for example, I could get rid of this one and this one, and maybe I don't want this one to expand vertically, but I want the other one to expand vertically. I can get some cool things like this going on. So this one's not important, this one's a big one, this one, you know, expands vertically. So playing with those, you can very much change how your menu is laid out. But 9 times out of 10, you probably just want them all lined up the same. But the horizontal ones are pretty much imperative too. And I won't go into the radio buttons and stuff because it's the same concept as a button. It's really the same concept as the button. All control nodes are basically the same. So if you have a look at these control nodes, under the control section, everything has that. Everything has that. Everything has that. So sometimes you'll have bits that are new just up the top left. So if I look at panel container, it doesn't actually have any special things. It's just generic stuff. And then the box, H-box, only special thing it has is alignment. Everything else is the same. You can make it go to the end if you want. And so the button has a bit more, you know, what it's going to do, what it's going to look like, etc. But once you learn how to deal with the control, they're all basically the same. So learn how to deal with controls and things will get much easier. Then you just need to override little bits of behavior, which isn't such a big deal. So there we go. There's the menu. I left code out of this, you know, purposefully. Let me just give you a quick go on that. You'd attach the script, pause menu demo, create, and then we go back to 2D and say I want to click my button. It is simple as going to node, pressed, double click on pressed, and as long as you got your script already ready, it will just default to that one anyway. Click connect and it'll push you right there, and sorry, that's where you're going to do whatever that button does. Now that's kind of out of scope here. I just want you to make a nice looking menu. I'm going to assume you know a bit about signals. So these are signals, and this is how you hook the code up. If you don't know about signals, I guess you probably need to watch another video about that. But they're pretty simple, as in I think every control node will have these, but your other ones will have special ones like pressed and whatever. And the Godot docs are really good to tell you what these do. So if you just hover over it, it'll tell you what it's going to do, and you just hook up the ones you want. So you're only going to hook up a couple of things, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. And then off you go. But hopefully this was helpful. I'm very new to making tutorials about Godot or indie games in general. So if you found this useful, I'd really like a comment and subscribe if you want to see some more of this stuff, and a like, because I don't really know if these are going to be useful for people, and I kind of need some feedback on if you want to see more of this stuff. So thanks for watching.